Hello, 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 my loves. As always, I hope that this video, or this live, I should say, finds you well and in excellent spirits. Happy Monday, and welcome to another edition of the weekly Astro Forecast live here in the Astro Room on YouTube. I am your host and your favorite astrologer, Mel of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. So if this is our first time meeting, welcome. And as always, if you are returning, welcome back. So this channel is everything astrology, spirituality, and manifestation. So if those are the things you like, if those are the things you love, or if those are the things you want to learn more about, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell so you'll always be notified whenever I come out with new content. All right, my love. So this is the weekly astro forecast for the week of September 30th through October 6th, 2024. So how are we feeling? Let's check in with ourselves for a little bit because we are still in the midst of eclipse season. It's actually about to come to a crescendo because we have the new moon solar eclipse in Libra happening on Wednesday. So, how are we feeling? Are we feeling tired? Are we feeling drained? Are we feeling energized? Are we feeling enlightened? Let me know in the chat if you're here live or if you're watching this on the replay. Let me know in the comments how this eclipse season has been treating you and if anything spectacular has happened, right? I've been sleepy. I've been very sleepy, very tired. It's just been kind of draining, but not draining in the sense that it's been like emotionally draining or anything like that. It feels like, when you're getting downloads, these cellular upgrades, like your body needs the rest. Your body needs the time to really integrate these new energies that are coming through. And I feel like this is definitely the case with this upcoming eclipse because this eclipse is like a reset. It's a reset, it's a recalibration, and it's this sort of fresh start, but on a different level, if that makes any sense. And I'll go more into that later because obviously this eclipse is sort of the star astrological event of the week. But we've got some other kind of nice stuff. Apart from the eclipse, we don't have anything too heavy, right? I feel like it's just sort of regular, not too much astrological energy in the sky. However, what we do have is pretty substantial, right? Of course, it all depends on how you use the energy. And of course, there's something that I forgot to do before I started this live. I forgot to turn off my smoke detector. So hold on one second. All right, we're back. Sorry for the interruption. I really need to remember to do that before I start this live. All right, all right. So we've got it's Monday night in the Astro Room. Hello, Maminka. Nice to see you. And Doug, drained for real. Yes. yes. It has been pretty draining, right? But I feel like it's all good. It's all good because, like I said, it's like for some of us, we're experiencing cellular upgrades. We're getting downloads that need to be integrated, new energies that need to be integrated because this is a recalibration on a major scale. But what I love about eclipses is that they are so complex in a way. Just when you think you know one facet of it, it can present itself in so many different ways. And I find that that's what keeps it interesting, apart from the fact that things could happen suddenly and all of that good stuff, right? But let's see, is there anything else I need to talk about before I get into it? Oh, yes. So, as you can see, if you are watching at the bottom of the screen, if you would like your weekly horoscope, you will want to text the word zodiac to the number 855-826-5544. Also, if you are someone who's interested in learning to read your natal chart, I do a free live workshop every 2 weeks on the fundamentals of your natal chart. And the next session is coming up this Wednesday at 11 a.m. Again, it's absolutely free. Link will be in the description box below as well as linked to this video. It is giving you an overview on some of the more pertinent and the more interesting facets of your natal chart so you can start reading it to precision. So far, the feedback has been really great. People are really enjoying it, and it's completely free. And even if you can't make it at the scheduled time, as an attendee, as someone who signs up, you will definitely get the recording. So you can't lose either way. So again, next one is on Wednesday. Link will be in the description box below. And so, new month, right? I just did the October monthly astro forecast last week. If you haven't checked that out, I'll link that in the description box below so you can. For my channel members, the roommates, your monthly horoscopes will be released by the end of the week. Or I need a little more time with them because this eclipse energy has me slowing down a little bit. But by the end of the week, everyone will have their horoscopes. And if you are interested in getting your monthly horoscope, then consider becoming a channel member. As a channel member, you pay a small monthly fee where you'll get access to extra content and specifically sign specific content. You'll get early access to all of my general YouTube videos. Plus, you get 20% off of all of my products and services. So again, you can't lose with that either. The link for that will be in the description box below as well. All right. So I think that is it. So without further ado, let's get into it and see what we got going on for this week. All right. And of course, we start off with the highlights. So, first, we have what I like to call newsflash, and this is actually something that's going on today. It is the Sun conjunct Mercury, and this is known as a Mercury cazimi. So, both the Sun and the Mercury are occupying the same place in the sky in the sign of Libra, and typically Mercury cazimis bring good news, uh, bright ideas. It's definitely a sort of feel good kind of transit, right? So, pay attention to perhaps what you are shown today, what you hear, what you learn. It could be very beneficial to you. The next we have what I like to call new relationships, and this is the new moon solar eclipse in Libra. So apart from this eclipse being just about resets and recalibration, Libra is the sign of relationships. And so with this being a new moon solar eclipse, it's opening the door to new relationships, which is always an exciting thing, right? Even if it's not new relationships, it may also be a new way of relating to people in your existing relationships. So either way, it's like we're walking through this door of new energy, which I don't know about you, but I definitely welcome. And then finally, we have what I like to call everlasting love. And this is Venus trine Saturn. This is one of my all time favorite transits because it facilitates commitment, it facilitates longevity in relationships, it facilitates investments, even financial investments that yield returns over the long run. So, this particular transit really allows and fosters stability in our lives, whether it's financial or whether it's relational. So it's actually one of my all-time favorite transits. All right. So those are the highlights. So now let's get into the week and see exactly what we've got going on. So for the week of September 30th, we've got the Sun conjunct Mercury, which is that Mercury cazimi that I was just mentioning. Then we have Mars trine Saturn, which is also a pretty good transit. We have the star of the week, which is the solar eclipse in Libra. Then we've got Venus trine Saturn, which is allowing us to experience commitment in our lives. And we close out the week with Mercury square Mars, which, if I had to sort of categorize all of the transits and all of the astrological happenings this week, this last one may not be the best feel good one, although transits that aren't necessarily the best can be the best for us. And I feel like Mercury square Mars is one of those transits. All right. So let's check out what the moon is doing this week. So we start off with the waning crescent moon in Libra. So before it reaches that new moon solar eclipse status, it is in the waning crescent phase. Then, of course, we have the solar eclipse, which is also in Libra. Then the moon moves into the waxing crescent phase, where it will move into Scorpio and Sagittarius. All right. So without further ado, let's get into the week. So we start off on Monday. Let's see what we have today. We've got the Sun conjunct Mercury, like I mentioned before, and we've got Mars trine Saturn. So let's see what this looks like on the chart. So at the top part of the chart, you will see the Sun and Mercury occupying the same space. I believe that says 8 degrees of Libra, right? Then at the right-hand portion of the chart, you will see Mars at 14 degrees of Cancer. And at the bottom of the chart, you will see Saturn at 14 degrees of Pisces. All right. So let's discuss. So we start off with this Mercury Cazimi, like I mentioned before. And Mercury Cazimis are not just about like good news, great ideas, even though that is, a part of it. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe you're like, what is a Cazimi? So a Cazimi is when a planet is in a very beneficial position next to the sun. Think of the sun, right? When you think about it, you know how you're not supposed to get too close to the sun because you will burn up, right? The same goes for planets. So when a planet gets to a certain position next to the sun can actually burn it off, meaning that the planetary energies of that planet sort of get burnt off by the sun. The sun sort of overpowers them. However, there is this sweet spot next to the sun where the planetary energies don't burn off, but they actually get energized in a very beneficial way. So you can have a Kazemi with any planet, right? It just depends on whether that planet is at that sweet spot in relation to the sun. And so we happen to be having a Mercury Cazimi right now. And so typically Mercury Cazimis are, or any sort of Cazimi for that matter, is considered to be beneficial, fortuitous, right? So it takes the energy of the planet in question and really energizes it in a very beneficial way. And so that's why when we have a Mercury Cazimi, you have things like good news, there's an emphasis on learning and communications. Even if you're not having $1 million idea today, this may just be a day where your mind is very sharp or you're having really great conversations or communications with people, right? It takes the energy of Mercury and it energizes it in a positive way. However, the other thing is that whenever a planet is in Cazimi, it's like uh, it's like a new moon of sorts for that planet. So I think I did a video on this last year, but every planet has something called a synodic cycle. And basically, it's measuring the cycle between two planets, right? So you'll have planets moving in the sky, and at times they come together, and then at times they're completely opposite from each other. That whole cycle is called a synodic cycle. And so when you have any planet in relation to the sun, that's also a synodic cycle. And when the planet and the sun are conjunct, in the case of a Kazemi, it's like a new moon phase for that planet. So it's this newness, right? And I bring this up because we are experiencing newness on another level with the moon, namely the solar eclipse. And so there is this element of a renewal of your mind that's really happening right now because the sun and Mercury, aka this Mercury Cazimi, is happening in Libra. And then this solar eclipse is also happening in Libra. So this could be a complete shift, a complete paradigm shift with respect to not only how you think, but also how you communicate and relate to other people. And this is the story that's unfolding right now. Okay. Now, whenever I talk about this transit is happening today, this eclipse is happening tomorrow, it's not just going to happen on that day. These are energies that are fluid and that are going to play out over time. But it's really, I want you to sit and take notice of your thoughts at this time and perhaps compare them to how you thought or how you perceived things in the past. Has it changed? Has it transformed? Has it evolved even? That's what I mean by this sort of mental reset. But I think the most beneficial use of this energy and the way that you're going to see it play out, particularly at this time with this Mercury Cazimi sort of on the heels of this new moon solar eclipse in Libra, is that the way that you perceive relationships, the way that you communicate in relationships, the way that you relate to people in relationships is recalibrating. Right. One of the things that kept coming up when I was doing the research for the solar eclipse, it's like spirit kept telling me, it's like, you know how you got to get your car serviced every so often, right? Like every couple of months you get an oil change, but then like once a year you got to get your tires rotated, you got to get a realignment, right? That's exactly what this solar eclipse is. And then when you put this Mercury Cazimi on top of it, the wheels that are being realigned are your mental wheels and even your vocal wheels, right? Because Mercury is the sign of ideas and communication. Libra is the relationship sign. So how we relate to people is being recalibrated and being reset. So try to take notice of how, and it may not be readily apparent to you, right? Unless you're someone who's really meditative, unless you're someone who's very conscious of how you're thinking in every second or every minute. Try to assess what your beliefs are when it comes to relationships. And when I say relationships, I mean relationships of all kinds. This isn't just about romantic relationships, friendships, how you relate to family, just how do you relate to people generally? What are your beliefs about those? And have they been changing or are they undergoing a transformation right now? We have this really beautiful, unique opportunity to step into a new door, right? A new door is being opened to us. And obviously we have free will. So we can either step through this door or not step through this door, right? But perhaps the door that you'd like to step into has closed. Like it's no longer available to you. And I feel like the universe is really trying to get you to change how you think about relationships. And that could even be the relationship you have with yourself, right? Especially, let's say, if you're like a Libra rising, all of this is happening in your first house. So, the beliefs that you have and that you hold about yourself are going to be highlighted at this time and how you express yourself and all of that. But it's really important for you to be present because you want to ascertain what the universe is trying to show you right now. And again, this could really be changing how you relate to people. Okay. And this Mercury Kazemi, I feel like is really going to help with that. It's like it's giving momentum to this solar eclipse in Libra. All right. So I feel like the energy of the eclipse is really potent 3 days before and 3 days after. So we're right in that sort of window of potent energy. However, this Mercury Kazemi, the energy of it is present for the next couple of days. And so all of this is mixing and mingling together with this eclipse energy. So take advantage of it, right? It's a great way, or it's a great, reason to perhaps work on your communication skills, to be intentional about changing your perception of relationships or changing how you relate to people, right? Especially if you're trying to experience a change in your life. But the beauty of the eclipse is that the universe is going to do it for you anyway. So whether you want to or not, the universe is going to make a change, whether it's a minuscule kind of change or it's some really transformative, profound change. The universe is going to facilitate that this week and into the coming months, actually. So that's something to be mindful of and to pay attention to, right? And so also today we have Mars trine Saturn. And I like this because Mars, anytime I hear Mars, a lot of times I hear motivation. It's like having a car that's revved up, an engine that's revved up, right? Wanting to move forward, wanting to take action, and wanting to take action in a very specific direction. Mars is one track minded, right? And the best example of Mars being one track minded is Scorpio energy. Scorpio is ruled by Mars and Pluto. And what is the one word that is typically associated with Scorpio? Obsession. That obsessive nature comes from the Mars planetary energy. So when Mars wants something, and that alone, right? But here's the thing with Mars energy. Mars energy is great at starting but not finishing. It's like January 1st and you're like, yes, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to start working out. By January 20th, you're like, man, I ain't about this life. The motivation either wanes or is completely gone. That is why I love this transit the most. And again, this transit is Mars trine Saturn. It's because Saturn gives staying power and longevity to that short-term motivation that Mars is known for. So when you have something like Mars, when you have a transit like Mars trine Saturn, you definitely want to start something because you will likely follow through with it. There's going to be a certain level of discipline and structure that you'll have at your disposal to start that workout plan and continue with it so that come April, you're still in the gym as opposed to burning out January 21st, right? So it's great for that. Now, Mars and Saturn are both in water signs right now. Mars is in Cancer and Saturn is in Pisces. So what does this mean? Mars is not comfortable in Cancer because Mars is fiery. It wants to go, right? It doesn't care about anything else. It's got that one track mind, like I said. But in a watery sign like Cancer, Mars has to slow down. It's like pouring fire. It's like pouring water on a campfire. It kind of puts it out. So having that motivation to get up and go may be a little challenging while Mars is in Cancer. So what ends up happening with this particular transit is it reminds us that anything that we want to achieve on the outside first has to be worked on the inside. So Mars in Cancer is like, all right, I'm motivated, but I'm motivated about creating the emotional or the subconscious environment that I can create this thing in, right? It's like doing the inner work. Is doing that inner manifestation work. And then with Saturn in Pisces, not only are you seeing the bigger picture, but you're motivated to achieve that bigger picture. Mars is very much like what's in front of you, what you can get quick, fast, and in a hurry. Saturn is like, especially Saturn in Pisces, is like, listen, this bigger picture that we have, we understand that it's going to take time and it's going to take work. And when you put those two together, what you start, you can likely finish. So I will say, take a look at where Cancer and Pisces are in your natal chart. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, attend one of my natal chart workshops so you can understand, right? But look at where Cancer and Pisces are in your natal chart. This will let you know what you can start at this time, what you can start cultivating on the inside so that you can achieve on the outside. Beautiful, beautiful energy. All right. And so I believe that is Monday. Let's keep it moving. Where are we? I forgot. Okay. We're at Tuesday. Yay. All right. We're at Tuesday. So here we are on Tuesday. We have the waning crescent moon in Libra, and that's all we've got going on tomorrow. All right. And we'll look at this at the chart. Now, we currently have what's called a stellium in Libra, meaning that there are several planets. When you have 3 or more planets in the same sign, it's known as a stellium. And this is what we have right now because we've got Mercury, we've got the sun, and we will have the moon. All right. And you'll see the moon at 0 degrees of Libra. So whenever the moon is in Libra, it encourages us to be social. Remember, I said before, Libra is the relationship sign. And so we relate to people. We're social. We're chatty, right? Libra has the gift of gab. Libra is very charismatic because it is a social sign. And so when the moon is in Libra, that's when we hang out with people. That's when we socialize. That's when we work with people, collaborate, cooperate, all of that good stuff. Teamwork makes the dream work, all of that cliche shit, right? Now, the moon is waning right now because we are making our way to the new moon solar eclipse on Wednesday. So, when the moon is waning, that's when we get rid of what we don't need, okay? And when the moon is waning in Libra, guess what? It means that we get rid of those perhaps relationships that we don't need. It is not to say that you just toss people to the curb. That's not necessarily what it is, right? But understand this. Libra, and this is no shade, Libra is very superficial. It's ruled by Venus. Venus loves everything to be beautiful and harmonious. That's why Libra is known as the peacekeeper, because Libra will acquiesce to certain informations just so that everything remains harmonious, right? In some instances that may work, other instances it doesn't. And so when the moon is waning in Libra, I like to think of it as a time when you could really remove the superficialness from your life, especially when it comes to your relationships. Perfect example. You have a group of friends, but you only party together, right? These are people that when it's time to go to the club, when it's time to go to brunch, when it's time to go to the lounge, they're there. But when shit hits the fan in your life, not only can you not even rely on these people, you don't even think of relying on these people. Those kind of relationships are very Libran, right? Because they're social, they're all of the good stuff. And perhaps, especially since we are experiencing a recalibration right now and a reset when it comes to our mindset and our relationships, maybe you're realizing that you want more substance in your life. It's not to say that you can't hang out with people. I'm not saying like never talk to these people again, but understand what role they really play in your life and try not to look for anything more than what it is. If you realize that you want more substance, maybe it's time to not hang out with them so much. Maybe it's time to focus on more substantive and more emotionally vulnerable relationships, right? The point is that when the moon is in the waning phase, in the sign of Libra, we're divesting ourselves of relationships that just aren't working, or even relationships that are inequitable, right? This is a big thing. Libra is all about balance, right? And so when it comes to relationships, reciprocity is a thing. And so when the moon is waning in Libra, it also gives you a chance to examine the relationships in your life and see if they are reciprocal. Are you giving more than you're taking? Are you always the one to call and check on your friend, yet they never call you? Are you always the one that your friends dump on when it comes to what's going on in their life, but then when you need their ear, they're nowhere to be found? Moon waning in Libra is perfect for divesting yourself of that. And again, it could be the case that you are someone who's good at cutting people off and you're like, you know what? I don't need this anymore. However, it also opens up the opportunity for dialogue, right? Which we don't always like. Libra doesn't like that either, because Libra is like, I want things to be cool. Like, if I have this conversation with you, we may not be friends anymore, or it may be difficult and we may fight. But that's ultimately what's going to clear the space for you to have the kind of relationships that you want, right? Equality, equilibrium, balance in relationships, and striving and achieving those things are great for the waning crescent moon in Libra. All right. And then that takes us to Wednesday, when we get to the star of the show, which is the new moon solar eclipse in Libra. All right. And let's see what this looks like on the chart. At the very top, again, you'll notice this Libra stellium, and you will see the sun and the moon are at 10 degrees of Libra. All right. So this particular eclipse, it's a new moon eclipse. So it's happening at the new moon phase, and it's happening at 10 degrees. 10 reduces to the number 1, which is the number of initiation of new beginnings, right? And then I just said before that Mercury Cazimi, it's also giving this new energy, right? So you have to be receptive to whatever the universe is trying to show you at this time, especially if you're not used to it, and especially if it may even be uncomfortable. It takes you out of your comfort zone. Now, I sort of just alluded to this before, but Libra likes everything to be copacetic, look good, peaceful, everyone getting along, right? The people that you party with, that's that very Libran kind of relationship signature. However, this new moon solar eclipse may really be getting you to think about the quality of the relationships in your life, and do they make sense for where you are going and where you are and who you are becoming. I can almost guarantee that if you are watching this video, whether on the live or you're watching this on the replay, clearly you understand that you are a spiritual being and that you are undergoing an evolution of ascension. And so clearly, at least I hope, you're cognizant of the fact that a lot of things that you may have enjoyed in the past are not necessarily the best for you anymore. Superficial relationships, unfair relationships, or these really antiquated relationship paradigms that we seem to be stuck to. The other facet of this eclipse that I really like is the fact that this is happening at a time when there's so many like gender wars. There's so much content out there about what a man should be, what a woman should be, how relationships should operate. And some of this content is really formulated on this paradigm that is completely antiquated, right? And people are just gobbling this up, and it's creating this dissension and this separation between the sexes right now. And I really feel like this eclipse is perhaps attempting to, and I say attempting to because the universe will always do what it does, but we have free will. So whether we accept it or not is why I'm saying attempting to bridge the gap that has formed between the genders, essentially, and how we relate to each other and what relationships consist of, right? And so when it comes to this eclipse, it's really getting you to look perhaps below the surface and to think about prioritizing yourself in relationships. Because understand, we're still working along the axis of Aries and Libra. Aries is me, Libra is we. So while there is this reset when it comes to relationships with this new moon solar eclipse in Libra, perhaps this reset is because we are really in tune with what we want individually. So many of us, and I say us because I know I've definitely been guilty of this, of people pleasing. acquiescing to other people for the sake of keeping the peace, or not being convicted enough in what I want, what I desire, what I need, right? And not being vocal about that. So many people get in relationships for the sake of relationships or for a number of reasons, right? And then they wake up one day and they're just like, this isn't working for me. And not only is it not working for me, it hasn't worked for me for a long time. And perhaps that may be what this recalibration is. You're finally waking up and you're saying, this is not what I want. And it's not to say that that the counterpart is not good or whatever. It's more about you and what you want and what's in alignment with those desires, right? So many of us are afraid to express those, right? Because either we've been rejected or we've been unfulfilled, or maybe we have other issues that really sort of force us to stay in relationships that don't serve us, whether it's codependency, abandonment issues, all of these things. And this eclipse is like, listen, understand that it's not working for you and it's not going to work for you. And so perhaps the door that's closing is closing because spirit is like, this ain't it. This ain't it. This relationship it's not it. But when the universe closes one door, it opens another. And so be excited about what is going to transpire. Because the universe isn't closing a door for no reason or to make you suffer. The universe is like, I know what you want. I need you to be convicted in what you want. And now we're going to bring in the people that reflect that back to you. It's that simple. And this is the recalibration and the reset that we are beginning, or should I say continuing to see, because every time we have eclipses, each eclipse season happens between two signs, right, on the same axis. Think of it as like a story. It's a chapter in this book, and each chapter has these climactic and maybe even anticlimactic periods, and those are the eclipses. And so this saga, this story, has been going on since last year. And we're sort of getting to the tail end of this story, this Aries Libra story, because come spring of 2025, the nodes are going to move out of Aries and Libra and move into Pisces and Virgo. And we got a little taste of that with that full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces that we had 2 weeks ago. So all of this to say, be receptive to whatever is being shown to you. Don't be afraid to walk through this new door, whether that door is a new relationship or whether that door is a new way of thinking about relationships or communicating in relationships or thinking about relationships. But understand this, at the very essence of relationships is you. Relationships are merely a reflection of you. And if you're not right with yourself, you cannot expect your relationship to be right with you either. And that is what's being recalibrated at this time. All right. And that's what we got going on for Wednesday. All right. So now we move on to Friday. Let's see what we have for Friday. So we've got Venus trine Saturn, right? And then we have the waxing crescent moon in Scorpio. All right. So this is what this looks like on the chart. So we've got at the top portion of the chart, we've got the moon at 0 degrees of Scorpio. And then we've got Venus at 14 degrees of Scorpio. Then at the bottom left-hand portion of the chart, we've got Saturn at 14 degrees of Pisces. All right. Now, what I love the most about the astrology and what I love the most about explaining the astrology in this way is that hopefully I'm explaining with some level of clarity how these energies work together. Because it's not just this is this transit, this is what's going on today, and it's sort of in isolation or in a bubble. Everything works together. Now, I just talked about ad nauseum this relationship reset, how we think about them, relationships themselves, whatever. Now we move into the phase where we are focusing on commitment and commitment of a substantive level because we've got Venus in Scorpio trine Saturn and the moon in Scorpio in the waxing crescent phase. So Venus trine Saturn, it gives staying power to relationships. See, I was talking esoterically about the universe closing one door and opening another. Venus trine Saturn, along with the moon in Scorpio on Friday, is the universe's way of opening a new door for you. So imagine this. Let's say you have a relationship already. Let's say you are booed up. However, things have not been going in the way that you want them to, right? Maybe you want to move things to the next level, or maybe you're not necessarily feeling fulfilled in this relationship. The universe is doing its thing with this Mercury Cazimi and with this eclipse. And now you're kind of really honed in on what you really want. And maybe you even have the motivation, right? Because motivation is Mars. And we've got Mars trine Saturn today. So you see how this works? Mercury, I keep saying Mercury, Mars trine Saturn is like, I am motivated to do something and I'll likely finish it because Saturn is going to give me the discipline and the structure, right? Then we've got our minds changing with the Mercury Cazimi and the solar eclipse in Libra. Now we get to Venus trine Saturn, and it's like, all right, what, like Venus in Scorpio is like, listen, I am getting to the very root of what it is that I desire, of who I am, even on a very deep level. If you're looking for commitment, if you're looking for staying power that is of a substantive nature, the universe is literally handing this energy to you on a silver platter with Venus trine Saturn. Now, I want to bring your attention to the fact that other than the eclipse and the Mercury Cazimi, much of the energy that is going on this week is happening in water signs. This is important because it goes back to what I was saying before. Before you create anything out here, before anything out here is created, it is created in here. And your emotions play a significant part in that. So even if you don't know what action steps to take out here, understand that the action is meant to be taken in here this week. All right. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. But Venus trine Saturn, it's like creating the environment to attract these new relationships that are substantive and that are substantial, right? Substantial, substantive, and long lasting. So this may be a week, I should say, where you're really assessing your emotions. So there's this element of this mental reset, like I talked about before, but there's all of this sort of focus on your emotions as well. And that goes back to what I was saying about understanding what it is that you want. See, Venus in Scorpio is like very much in tune with your deepest desires. Not just what looks good on paper, not just what Instagram shows you, but what you, yes, you, what you really want, what you really desire, right? And this is what the universe is trying to get you to understand since last year, since the nodes went into Aries and Libra. What do you want? And now it's time to be vocal about it. Now your mind is going to be reset to, it's going to be, think of your mind like, I'm about to date myself, but when you had radios and you have to turn the dial to the different stations, your mind is going to be turned to the station of your desires. This is what I want in a relationship. And sort of not necessarily settling for anything that is not that, right? And being convicted in those desires and understanding and accepting those desires and finding value in those desires. A lot of times, certain things that we want, because we are perhaps afraid or because we are not used to them, we don't find them to be too valuable. And as a species, we make a lot of our moves based on how valuable they are to us. If something is very valuable, then we're willing to work toward it, give or take. But when you're really convicted and you find value in your desires, this is when you are more proactive about them. And when you're more proactive about them, this is how you attract the right partner. Understand, with all of this water energy, it's not about going out and trying to get somebody or chasing somebody. This is about creating the environment to attract. And Venus in Scorpio is like a huge magnet. So if you are attuned to the right frequency, mentally and emotionally, you are going to start attracting people on that same frequency to you. That is how the astrology is working this week. And then to top it off, we've got the moon in Scorpio, and it's in the waxing crescent phase, which means that this is the time when we manifest. This is the time when we take action toward what we want. But remember what I just said, that action is not necessarily going to be external. It's going to be internal. So if you are willing to do that work, it's like you are going to turn on this huge magnet. Like those magnets they have in the junkyards that can like pick up the cars? That's exactly what you're going to be doing if you do the work, particularly this week. So whatever doors are closing, whatever friends you're no longer talking to, whatever people you're not entertaining, all of a sudden, it's like you're going to be attracting all of these new people. Or maybe even different facets of the same people, the facet that is in alignment with where you are. Powerful, powerful stuff. Like I can't even begin to get you to really feel and understand what I'm saying. Hopefully I'm doing an okay job. But do you understand what the power that you have at your hands, not only this week, but just always, right? If you want to change your situations when it comes to relationships, this is the time to do it. But also remember, and I say this about every eclipse, eclipses are when we let the universe take the wheel. So yes, this is where you are doing your inner work, and it's like the universe will meet you probably even more than halfway. That's how powerful this energy is this week. All right. So that's Friday. Now we are moving on to Sunday. And on Sunday, we've got Mercury square Mars. Like I said before, this is the transit that's maybe not the best feeling. And then we have the waxing crescent moon in Sagittarius, which kind of lightens things up a little bit. Okay. Let's see what this looks like on the chart. So at the top right-hand portion, you will see the moon at 0 degrees of Sagittarius. In the middle circle, you will see Mercury at 18 degrees of Libra. And then at the bottom of the chart, you will see Mars at 17 degrees of Cancer. All right, so let's discuss. So first up, Mercury square Mars. All right. Now, Mercury square Mars is like your mind is sort of firing on all cylinders, right? It is this mental motivation and drive that you have. It's like a revved up car, okay? It's like being very proactive about taking action, but not necessarily thinking it through. Mercury is like slow down, think things through. Mars is like, nope, let's just go. Let's just go on impulse. Now, what makes this particular transit a little more frustrating is that Mars is currently in Cancer. And like I said before, Mars is not comfortable in Cancer. Mars wants to go full speed ahead, hot and heavy. Cancer is like putting a bucket of water over a campfire. It kind of just slows you down, really lessens the motivation and the drive. When Mars is in Cancer, it's like wanting to move forward, but then your emotions get in the way. Like I said, Mars is one track minded and Mars is arguably very selfish. So it's like when you want something, you want something. You don't really care about what anyone thinks, what anyone has going on. Like you're very one track minded. However, when Mars is in Cancer, it's sort of forced to pay attention to not only your emotions, but perhaps other people, especially other people that may be affected by your decisions or your actions. And so this is the energy that we're sort of living in now. It's like, okay, to build on everything that I was just talking about. So mental reset, we're doing the inner work. We have the ability to create the environment that we can magnetize new people to us. And maybe we want to go ham with this shit, right? Maybe we really just want to do the most right now. Mercury square Mars is like, oh, hold on. It gives you the opportunity to really acclimate to this reset. Okay. It's like going from training wheels to two wheels, right? Training wheels has a certain feel to it. Then when you take off those training wheels, it's like, whoa, you really have to focus on your balance, focus on not falling or teetering to either side. So Mercury square Mars is giving you the opportunity to integrate this new reset, integrate this new mindset, right? And slow down with it. which could be frustrating because maybe you want shit now. Maybe you're really just amped and you don't want to lose that momentum. You're not going to lose the momentum. It's just that you really need to think about things, and um you really need to be cognizant of how you communicate as well, because Mercury is still in Libra. And so how we relate to people is going to come into focus, in the sense that I just said Mars is in Cancer, and Mars in Cancer is making you address other people's emotions. Could be other people's opinions also, right? So it could be that you want to do this, but maybe someone is giving you, a hard time with it. Or you want to go in this direction, you want to take this action, but you know that if you do, so and so will be affected, or the consequences of your actions could impact someone else negatively or otherwise, right? So it really gets you to be intentional and cognizant about the moves that you are making. And again, could be frustrating because we have this I should say we have this new sense of self, right? We may be really convicted in what it is that we want, what it is that we desire, but this transit still kind of reminds us that we need to temper those desires based on like who's important to us, who's around us, and who may be affected. All right. So it could feel a little frustrating. However, slowing down is never a bad thing. Let me not say never, not always a bad thing, right? Because it gets us to be intentional. It gets us to really think before we act. And that's exactly what this transit has us doing. And then finally, we close out the week with waxing crescent moon in Sagittarius. I love when the moon is in Sagittarius because it gives you this sense of optimism. It allows you to see the bigger picture. So even if you are experiencing some frustration based on any of the astrology this week, I feel like you'll end the week on a somewhat optimistic note. Even if it's not necessarily optimistic, I think you'll be able to see the bigger picture and understand how all of these moving parts really make up this bigger picture, right? It's hopeful, it's optimistic, and it's far reaching. Understanding that, to go back to my weight loss example, if you want to lose 50 pounds, that's kind of a lofty goal, right? And on the days when you're motivated, it's great. You feel great. You love going to the gym. On the days you don't want to go to the gym, you're like, fuck this. I don't know if I can still do this. When the moon is in Sagittarius, it keeps reminding you of that bigger picture. And that bigger picture could be fitting into that outfit for that wedding or for that trip, or being healthier, right? Not feeling chronic pain anymore. That's the bigger picture. And again, when the moon is in Sagittarius, that's what we're focused on, right? The glyph for Sagittarius is that arrow, right? And it gets you to think higher, gets you to think longer, it gets you to think farther. And when you focus on that, it makes the details a lot less daunting. All right. And that is how we end the week, my loves. So that concludes this edition of the weekly Astro Forecast. I sincerely hope that you were able to get at least one important piece of information that you can use going into this week and beyond. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want information on any of my products and services, you know where to find that. It's all in the description box below. Again, thanks so much for tuning in. Have an amazing week, and I will see you next week. Same time, same place. Take care.